Hi guys, welcome back and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be called Where Are You Wednesday, but I wanted to just kind of touch base with everybody and see how everybody's doing, and hopefully everybody's doing well. I know in my last video I said I was sick. We all were. I mean, it wasn't the, we just were sick. People still do get sick. And yeah, where I live, it's negative 18 degrees and we were sick. So, but now we're okay. I know the last video, I said, how sick I was and everything, and it was kind of like the second week going into being sick, so that kind of sucked. We were all really sick. Everybody but the dog, which good for her. And then let's see what else is going on. I've been in the process of opening an in-home daycare for a long time now. Because of the Rona, everything's just taking a really long time to get going. So, been working on that. And then I joined a fitness challenge, like a body composition challenge, and I'm not somebody that usually does stuff like that. I am not somebody that steps out of my comfort zone. Doing this, like talking to a camera, is kind of way out of my comfort zone. It's kind of weird, almost, but it's a good weird. I like talking to people. And then last week, I had a friend pass away. That was pretty unexpected. Working on getting through that. Last week was a really hard week, so I had planned on doing a video, but last week was just a really, really hard week. So I focused on just sticking to the fitness challenge and thinking about my friend a lot, and really, really working on not sweating the small stuff, because I do that a lot. I worry like all the time, and I'm just trying really hard to not. But anyway, I wanted to do this video. I know we do someone Saturday, but I was really hoping to be able to do more videos during the week, and now hopefully I have a little extra time. And this one's going to be Where Are You Wednesday? And this one's very different than anything that I think that we're going to talk about, because they're not looking for them anymore. This case is very old. But it was so interesting to me, and I thought maybe you guys would like to hear about it too. So without further ado, let's get into our video for today. Where Are You Wednesday is going to be the case of Glen and Bessie Hyde. Cue that intro.
Warning: the following content may be considered disturbing or unsettling to certain viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. This video is meant for informative purposes only. Hundreds of thousands of people are reported missing every year. This is just one of them.
Bessie Louise Haley Hyde was born December 29th, 1905. She was raised in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and married a man named Earl Heimlich on June 5th, 1926 in Catlettsburg, Kentucky, and was a student at Marshall College. The two attended high school together, and however, shortly after their wedding, Bessie actually moved back to her parents' house in West Virginia. Bessie and Earl actually only lived together for about 2 months during their whole marriage. A local newspaper would run a story that said Bessie planned on studying art the next year, although no actual reason was given for that. Rumors then actually spread that Bessie was pregnant, but it was never confirmed. Bessie made her way to San Francisco in February of 1927 and was on a passenger ship to Los Angeles, where eventually she actually met her future husband, who was an Idaho farmer and an outdoorsman named Glen Hyde. And it didn't take long for them to start a romantic relationship. Now you have to think about this time and period. It was kind of scandalous. If people are back home talking about how they weren't married very long, Bessie and her former husband Earl, and then they think she was pregnant, and then all these rumors are circulating. So I can only imagine how well this went over when they got back home. So anyway, back to Glen and Bessie. Glen Hyde was born in Hanson, Idaho on December 9th, 1898. He attended the University of Idaho, and he was actually employed as a farmer in the area. He was a huge outdoorsman. Glen knew his way around the outdoors very, very well, which kind of leads, keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about later in the video. When Glen and Bessie met, Bessie was still married. Bessie's husband, Earl, actually refused to do a divorce. He did not want it. He was adamant about staying married. So Bessie actually moved to Elko, Nevada, and she met the residency requirement in order to be able to get to the divorce. The divorce decree in Nevada was needed. Their divorce was finalized on April 11th, 1928, and the next day, on April 12th, Bessie and Glen got married in Twin Falls, Idaho. To celebrate their new life together, Glen and Bessie went on a honeymoon, and they decided to go rafting. The pair went rafting down the Green River and Colorado River in the fall of 1928. Glen, being so well versed in outdoorsy stuff, he was an experienced rafter. Bessie was not so much. Glen and Bessie got on a handmade flat-bottom wooden scow, which was a type of watercraft used during the time on the Idaho River, and it weighed 2 tons. Glen also actually refused to bring jackets or lifesavers. I don't quite know exactly why, but maybe it was because he thought that, he didn't need it because he was so good at being outdoorsy, swimming and everything. But now, I remember my dad, I'm originally from Maryland, and my dad had a crabbing boat. And anytime we went crabbing, you had to have, anytime you're on your boat, you had to have, life jackets. I think, a fire extinguisher. You had to have stuff. So to hear about, how times have changed, because I remember, I think it was the Coast Guard that came by and checked my dad's boat. They were doing, routine checks on people, and you have to have those things. Otherwise, I think you get a pretty hefty fine. Maybe lose, your license. I'm not sure. But anyway, my dad had to have, all the stuff and had to be able to show it. And then you hear that somebody was like, no, I don't need a life vest. We don't need that. That it was totally different time. So eventually, the pair ended up at the home of someone named Emery Kolb. Emery Kolb was a photographer and had a small writing business on part of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. The trio met on November 15th, and the Hyde said that they were going to restock their supplies. Glen and Bessie asked Emery to actually take a picture of them along the river, and they would pick it up when they got back. Emery thought that Bessie seemed nervous about the rest of their trip, and understandably so, because he mentioned to Glen that they might want to bring some life vests or some type of life preserver, and Glen ignored it. He just brushed it off and said nope. And after they were done getting their supplies and left Emery Kolb's property near Bright Angel Trail, the couple was never heard from again. By early December, Glen's dad helped look for the duo when they didn't come back to Idaho. So they were in Arizona for a really long time. A small plane found their abandoned craft actually in the river in mid-December, and then a few searches in a boat went to check it out. The scow was fully stocked and upright, and even had Glen and Bessie's coats, hiking boots, and Bessie's diary. Glen's gun was also actually on the boat as well. But there was no sign of Bessie or Glen. A foot of water was also found in the craft, but it was not determined by authorities if it was river water or from Bessie's and Glen's supplies. There were 42 notches carved into the scow, one for each day of the trip. A detailed search of the area produced absolutely nothing. The investigators on their case just figured that Bessie and Glen had some sort of accident where Glen's dad thought Bessie and Glen had problems with their craft and tried to hike their way out of the Grand Canyon, but got lost. No evidence has ever come about regarding that theory. In 1971, a woman named Elizabeth Ann Cutler actually traveled down the Grand Canyon on a rafting trip and claimed to be Bessie Hyde. This woman claimed that she stabbed Glen after a violent disagreement in 1928 and walked out of the woods and made a new life for herself. Elizabeth Cutler changed her tune soon after, as she was 4 inches taller than Bessie, and her birth records proved that she was in fact Elizabeth Ann Cutler. She had been born on December 2nd, 1908 in Pomeroy, Ohio, and Elizabeth actually died in 1998. In 1976, the skeletal remains of a young man were found on the canyon and had a bullet inside the skull, and were later not to be found Glen Hyde. Plot twist though, the remains were actually found on Emery Kolb's property, and suspicion immediately turned to him. He was also one of the last people to see Glen and Bessie alive. And however, a test done on the remains concluded that the bones were those of a man no older than 22 and died no earlier than 1972. And that ruled out the possibility of the remains belonging to Glen. This was done in 1985, and another man and woman were identified as Bessie and Glen, but it turned out not to be true either. The story has so many people saying that they're Glen and Bessie, and turns out not to be true. How sad for their families. How sad for anybody's family. You know, if you think about that, when people say, I'm so-and-so, and then they turn out not to be, it's totally just getting their hopes up. Oh, that's so sad. Bessie's brother said that Earl, her first husband, had a temper and could often be violent. He also said that some people even thought he could be involved somehow because of his violent tendencies. However, no evidence pointing Bessie's ex-husband Earl to it and linking him somehow to her disappearance was ever found. Earl remarried in 1930, and until he died, he would not talk about Bessie. He never, ever would talk about her. There was a witness on the river, and he said that he saw a brown leather jacket floating in the water. Bessie was known to have worn a brown leather jacket on occasion, but it was not sure whether or not it was actually hers, or if it was Glen's, or if it were somebody else's. Like I said earlier, their case is no longer being investigated. They have been missing for a very, very long time, and their case is no longer being looked into. But that just kind of goes with our Where Are You Wednesday theme, because all these people came forward and said that they were this person, and all these people came forward and said that they were Glen, and that they were Bessie, and that they were this person, and they were that person, like Elizabeth Ann Cutler. But they weren't. So that is the conclusion of our video for today. Where Are You Wednesday? Glen and Bessie Hyde. Bye, guys.